What is happening? The coronavirus pandemic is, above all, a health crisis, but it also has profound economic impact. The unemployment rate in the United States was 3.5% in February. In April, in the midst of a nationwide closure to prevent the spread of the virus, it rose to 14.7%, the highest since the Great Depression. Before the epidemic, the US economy was experiencing the longest growth period in history. The current recession is different from other recent crises, such as the 2008 financial crash, which is experiencing a more gradual decline caused by instability within the economy itself. However, the virus caused the economy to collapse almost overnight. Some economic indicators recovered strongly as lockdowns were lifted in some parts of the country. President Trump described the economy as a rocket ship after the promising unemployment numbers were released in early June. Despite these gains, there are signs that recovery has stopped as the number of COVID-19 cases increases across the country. It is too early to know the full economic impact of large outbreaks that hit states such as Arizona, Florida, and California. However, some economists expressed concern that the economy may be on the verge of a real slump. Why there's debate? Although the recent revival of the virus has not made a possible improvement, there are still reasons to be optimistic. Although important economic indicators such as unemployment and consumer spending pose a terrible scenario, the real impact of the decline on Americans may be less than these figures show. Increased unemployment payments by $600 per week, including $1,200 direct payments accepted by the Congress in March, and the $2 trillion incentive package for businesses, including hundreds of billions of dollars, was credited by preventing the worst scenario for the economy for the last few months. Federal and state level eviction ban helped families struggling with mortgage assistance to stay in their homes. The stock market recovered most of the losses it suffered at the beginning of the outbreak. These promising signs may be hiding the real estate of the economy on the verge of another major collapse that sends the country to depression. Some economists are afraid. One of the most important reasons for concern is the end of many measures that keep the country alive. Increased unemployment is planned to end in late July, and loans may not be enough for businesses to keep their doors open. Evacuation moratoriums will also end soon. State budgets decreased due to the loss of tax revenues. It is unclear whether Congress would be willing to spend more money to run these programs and save the states. The worst scenario predicted by economists can see federal aid drying out at the same time. Businesses begin to shut down massively, state government jobs disappear, and millions of Americans lose their homes. As the experts fear, the combined results of all these crises at once can even lead to another financial collapse, such as causing the Great Recession. What's next? Democrats in the House of Representatives passed $3 trillion stimulus bill in May that would, among other things, extend enhanced unemployment and provide another round of stimulus checks. The Republicans in the Senate and the Trump administration appear to be eyeing a smaller package that totals less than $1 trillion. A final stimulus bill is expected by the end of the month. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said, "Perspectives, the economy is on the brink of collapse. The US economy right now is like a jumbo jet that's in a steady glide after both its engines flamed out, it was likely to crash into the side of a mountain. Tom Gara, BuzzFeed. The current crisis is so unique. All forecasts are essentially guesses. There are lots of economists, analysts, and experts pontificating on the future of the US economy. Do not believe any of them. No one really knows. Gene Marks, The Guardian. Congress can prevent a worst-case scenario if it's willing to spend enough. If Washington will not provide more support to working-class families now, there will not be enough consumer spending to keep struggling Main Street businesses alive much longer. And if those businesses fail, other dominoes will fall. Rex Nutting, MarketWatch. A housing crisis may be coming soon. Like every other aspect of the lockdown crisis, the coming avalanche of housing-related debt has been entirely predictable, with real estate prices grotesquely inflated and wages that were already stagnant, either falling or non-existent. Something like this was bound to happen sooner or later. Matthew Walter, The Week. The fate of the economy is directly tied to the state of the pandemic. Financial aid, while vitally important for reducing the economic pain caused by COVID-19, will not hasten the end of the pandemic. The only way to end our financial crisis and restore the economy is to address the pandemic itself. Stephen Barry and Zach Cooper, Politico. Short-term stimulus has hidden truly dire state of the economy. America's economic crisis is worse than it looks. For that reason, it's about to get worse than it is. Eric Levitz, New York. Another financial collapse is possible. Imagine if, in addition to all the uncertainty surrounding the pandemic, you woke up one morning to find that the financial sector had collapsed. You may think that such a crisis is unlikely, with memories of 2008 crash still so fresh. But banks learned few lessons from the calamity, and new laws intended to keep them from taking on too much risk have failed to do so. As a result, we could be on the precipice of another crash. Frank Partnoy, The Atlantic. Keeping businesses alive through the current virus surge is necessary to prevent disaster. The thing that stands between the present severe, sharp recession and a second Great Depression is doing everything possible to ensure that when the virus is tamed, and it is a when, not an if, employers will still be around to pay their workers. Daniel Appert, Business Insider. Reopening prematurely created the illusion of a recovery. President Donald Trump pushed relentlessly to reopen, on the mistaken belief that it would fire up the economy, and devoted Republican governors quickly obliged. Reopening creates a flicker of economic activity, a fleeting illusion of recovery, followed by an explosion of disease and death, which demands further shutdowns. Frida Gittis, CNN. Mass inequality made the US economy more vulnerable. No matter how you distribute income or organize industry, a deadly, highly transmissible virus is going to be bad for business. But the gross inequities of the modern US economy have deepened the COVID-19 recession. Eric Levitz, New York. The chances of a sweet recovery are gone. If there were still hopes of a V-shaped comeback from the novel coronavirus shutdown, this past week should have put an end to them. The pandemic shock, which economists once assumed would be only a temporary business interruption, appears instead to be settling into a traditional, self-perpetuating recession. David J. Lynch, Washington Post. Most of the idea, comment, information, and criticism containing in these videos have been created by Daily News Report. Before making any important investment decision, use the information contained in these videos as a starting point for conducting your own research. If you make any investment or legal decision, it is advised to consult an expert before making this decision.